Hello, family. Let's get that audio check done. Make sure, because we got a lot to cover today. See, my audio's good. I'm streaming through stream. I'm on the StreamYard app. Restless Aaron. Nice. That was pretty fast. Thank you, Tone Deaf. That's all good. Let a few more people stack into the chat. Got a couple of announcements. All right, guys. This video here. You're gonna have some aha moments because, especially my archaics veterans who know my material and you've covered the sources and you've seen this data, how this chronology unfolds, everything that I'm going to reveal about the Sphinx in this video is going to now make sense to you. Listen, Graham Hancock, Robert Bauval, Robert Temple, these men have produced some fascinating books, and some of the information I'm definitely on board with. I agree. I'm not so Robert Temple. My only issue with him is the ancient alien stuff from the Sirius mystery. But his books after that, where he's sticking with core Egyptological material on the Sphinx, I'm on board with it. I have to take my hat off to Graham Hancock for not entertaining the ancient aliens crap. But where I diverge from Mr. Hancock, and I wish he would sit down and actually look at the data, is chronology. There's no way his civilization about the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx and Atlantis goes back to 10,000 BC. And I understand how he got that position, listening to people like Robert Bauval and Robert Schoch. So, guys, we're going to go through all this information. We're going to put it in a proper perspective, and I promise you, you're going to hear things about the Sphinx, the origin of the Sphinx, what it protects, why it was there, what it originally was, that you have never heard before. This is the value of the Archaics database. I am able to pull all this data and put it together because the last part of this video, you're going to have mind explosions when I show you what the Aztecs said about it, when I show you what the ancient pre-Greek Pelagians, what the Greeks said about it, when we go into the Norse mythology and what they said about it. Yeah, guys, this is deep. These different cultures, they knew about the Sphinx. They knew why it was there, what it was protecting. Guys, I told you we're living in a construct, and the portal by which the Exodus is obtained out of this construct has always been known. It's even mentioned in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and we're going to get into that. We're going to get into all that. Sphinx is amazing, guys, and there's a reason why the modern interpretation of the Sphinx is totally wrong. You guys have to take in consideration the Sphinx, the largest statue in the ancient world, still surviving today, at 66 feet tall and 240 feet long, and not one single mention in the Old Testament. Not one single mention in the New Testament. And there's reasons for that. You want to know those reasons? We're not going to talk about them here in this because it's not even relevant. But it's very relevant to the Dark Scriptures playlist in all my videos, showing you when the Old and New Testament were actually written. So, this is it. I've been waiting for this because this is my icing on the cake for my Archaics exposure of bad data. Once this video is over, I am able to now do a single video tying all these videos I did on the Archaics Bad Data playlist and show you how all the mistakes of modern authors, the Billy Carsons and Zechariah Sitchins out there, how it all fits into one perfect, cohesive, easily verifiable timeline. It's amazing, dude. It's amazing, guys. So amazing. So, first announcement, we'll get right off. The first announcement we're going to get right off the muscle. Bad news. However, it's not really bad news for me, but it is bad news for a lot of people. Facebook has removed me, and that means all 1,000 and so of my posts. All my posts with all my images, all my articles, all my anecdotes, all the data that I've released on Facebook on Archaics has all been removed from Facebook. Now, for those of you who have been with me for a long time, this is the third time Facebook has done this to me. It's no big deal. I really don't even care. I don't. Facebook, it monopolizes my time for almost zero return, but just arguing with people in the comment section that think they're educated enough to argue these concepts. So I'm not. I really don't care. I found out through other people and contacting Dawn, and Dawn and I just looking at Facebook like, wow, I'm gone, completely gone, and that's okay. I'm cool with that. I'm not even disturbed by it. I have 3 of these 2 terabyte drives that have every single thing I've ever written in my life on them. I have them distributed on 3 different properties. These right here. Not worried about it. I have everything. All the images to all my posts, all my books, every image ever seen in every video, every YouTube video I've ever done, archaics TV video, and some videos that I've done that I've never released, they're all right here. And on here, this is 4 terabytes. This has even more than that does. This is 4 terabytes. This has extra copies in different formats. Right here. I'm not worried about it, guys. Oh, I'm gonna have somebody looking into it, finding a real good place, or maybe I might just go ahead and have somebody build me a fantastic website, and we'll just stay off these platforms. But it's a fantastic website, and I'll just put all my data on the website for everybody to freely go look at. Thousands of articles, tens of thousands of images, go through all that stuff, and then from that website you can post on your social medias and all that. I'm not worried about Zuckerberg. I'm not worried about the CIA operations going on in the acquisition of people's data through Facebook, because that's all Facebook was. Facebook is an intelligence operation. Yes, many people enjoy it because of the social networking involved, but Facebook was designed for and is implementing all kinds of software by intelligence agencies to find out everything about you. So anyway, I don't care. I don't even care, guys. Dawn was upset about it. I'm not. I just don't care. So anyway, that's it's actually going to free up more of my time to go ahead and concentrate on Billy Carson and David and Graham Hancock and a whole bunch of other people that are now on my list. So that actually is a good for me. So also, Dawn has asked me, and Big John left 5 minutes ago. We've been working on all kinds of things together. I'm gonna heed to their word, but I have another big announcement. But I'm gonna follow their advice. I have never given a damn about consequences. I move forward, I don't care. But in this, they have both advised me to give the announcement, but don't give any particulars. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna tell you guys that I got contacted by somebody epic, huge series. We're talking television, talking about massive network exposure, who is fascinated with archaics, and they essentially they just want to be the first to reach out before other networks start discovering me. And I just got the news this morning. Yeah, I've had to pull Dawn off the ceiling 2 or 3 times this morning, but this is huge. I'm not going to give you any details till everything's solid, but it came the exact same day I found out I was kicked off Facebook. It's crazy. It's amazing how these things happen. It's amazing how these things happen. But none of that has anything to do with this paradigm smashing episode about the Sphinx. This is where it's going to get great, guys. This is where it's going to get great. So, all right. We've got 929. My custom is we start at 1,000. We'll hit it. We'll hit it in a couple minutes. We've only been on 12 minutes. We'll hit it. But yeah, guys, it's huge. It's huge. Also, a couple other announcements. I don't know if we're going to do a Texas meetup in the same room we always do them in. We've done several in the same room. It's a real big room, a lot of accommodations. It's easy to get to. I don't know if we're going to do that meetup in Houston first in March. I'm thinking March is a good time to start the meetups again, but I don't know. We're still deciding if all the errands in the greater Houston area want to come together. We're doing roundtables now. This is the new system. It's all inclusive. But we're not having me on stage and then addressing it now. We're not doing all that. double row of chairs. The room is huge. Do a double row. If we have to, a triple row of chairs, and everybody's on the round table. And in the middle of the table is the raffle where we give free things away throughout the day. And this way, we're all a part of the conversation. And, and so this is the system that we've adopted. We started doing it with Martin Leakey when he was here in Texas. So we're going to continue that. Texas, I think Houston's going to be the first in March, and then almost immediately within 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to Florida. We're already looking for venues in Orlando, Florida right now, and we plan on doing a meetup on April 1st. Same thing. My very first meetup was in Fort Worth. It was on April 1st. We're thinking April 1st or April 2nd is going to be the first meetup, travel meetup we do, and it's going to be in Orlando, Florida. I'm not sure yet. I know we're going to Virginia. I don't know if we're going on that trip, if we're going straight north from Florida to do another meetup in Virginia. I don't know. But we are going to Virginia area this year as well. And I believe New York. So, and of course, I'm going to be doing one every year in San Diego.
April 20th, honey.
April 20th. I'm sorry. April 20th. So yeah, if it's going to be April 20th that late, then yeah, I'm going to go ahead and probably do one in Houston, a meetup for the locals in Houston. So yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, 997. Let me go and get my deal about right. So if you guys are in, I know a lot of you guys were into those meetups. Even after the meetups, sometimes we go to dinner and a bunch of us all go to restaurants, and all the meetups, we take pictures and we have a blast. And if you haven't got your break free or die trying mug yet, archaics.com, feel free to order. We got a bunch of them. That's the famous Flammarion from the 1890s. That's the Flammarion. That's the little dude that's peeking outside of the simulation of the construct to see that it's even a more complex construct on the outside. So yeah, until I figure out what I'm going to do with 4 terabytes full of articles and posts and images and anecdotes and data sets, you guys are probably going to see me power posting right here on YouTube. You're probably going to see a bunch of material just start posting in the YouTube community. May as well. All right, we got over 1,000 people in the chat, guys. So let me see, get here. Got a lot of things to show you. Go ahead and give you a little warm up. All right. I'm going to present. I'll remove my video. GG Neptune. I'm not going to forget New England. Don's not going to let me forget that. Dr. Corey Stern's not going to let me forget that area. Thank you, Victoria. Hit that like button. All right. So I'm going to present, share screen. You guys told me last time that y'all can see me on the side. So as long as you guys can see me on the side, no matter what I'm sharing, I'm good. If you can't see me on the side, let me know. But just for right now, I just want to whet your appetite. Many of you know this is the Great Sphinx, located at 30 degrees north latitude in northern Egypt, which is called Lower Egypt. This is 108 miles from the Mediterranean coast. Between the Sphinx and the Mediterranean coast is 108 miles, called the 9 Rivers. In ancient times, it was called the 9 Bows. This is where the Egyptian Nile, which is the only river in the world that runs from south to north, when the Egyptian River branches out like a tree into the Mediterranean, it's called the Great Delta. It's the only one in the world like it. Many rivers form deltas, but there's nothing like this, where it forms 9 independent rivers with a bunch of runoffs, tributaries. There's a reason for this geological anomaly, and we're going to get to that real soon. This is the Great Sphinx. After it's been excavated, the Sphinx Temple You can see a lot. We're going to address all the anomalies. There's a lot of old photos of it, like this one right here. Here's another one. You can see how much the sand has buried the pyramids in the back. These men that are walking here, they don't even have a clue how deep this area is. It was absolutely buried up until the days of even after Napoleon's army in the Battle of the Pyramids, 1798, 1799, when they did their after the battle, they did their excavations. They had no idea how deep it was. Some beautiful, beautiful illustrations of the pyramids of Giza from old books in the Archaics library. Look, some of these blocks are bigger than the camels. Huge. Sphinx is buried in this illustration. Pyramids don't look that big because they're also buried up to a point. Here's another old picture. This is just my intro pictures. We're going to go into some real deep pictures on the Sphinx in this video. Here's just intro, old pictures from the Archaics library. That guy right there doesn't even have a clue how deep that area goes. He's standing right there and doesn't have a clue that there's whole temple complexes and that from where he's standing right there, the surface of the ground still 20 feet below him. Here's some old illustrations. Look at that guy. He still ain't all the way at ground level because you don't even see the paws of this. Even in this picture, the paws of the Sphinx are still buried. And in this picture, you can also see the older Sphinx as opposed to what later pharaohs added. See the blocks? These blocks on the side? Yeah, they're not a part of the original construction. Look at that Sphinx. This is Sphinx, guys. 240 feet long, 66 feet wide. Those are not the original dimensions. There's the dream stela right there. That's the dream stele. Graham Hancock's done a pretty good job of covering the dream stele. We're going to talk about it here only because it has it's a chrono marker. But other than that, I'm not really interested in it. I don't care about Thutmose IV, none of that. Thutmose IV didn't know anything about this area. Thutmose IV excavated the Sphinx, and it's called the Restoration Stela. That's what it was. They restored it. The ancient Egyptians found this, guys. Some old pictures. I'm just going through the old pictures. It's very impressive. Megalithic, Heliolithic block. You're looking at Heliolithic blocks. Huge. On my channel, I've gone through a lot of material explaining the difference between the pre-flood vapor canopy civilizations that were technolithic. These were a part of the technolithic period. When that civilization collapsed in a cataclysm, when the vapor canopy fell and caused the Great Flood, this was what began the sun calendars. We're going to get into all that. The sun calendars were unknown. It was all stellar and lunar reckoning in the vapor canopy. Then the sun calendars were used after the cataclysm. This is the Heliolithic maritime culture. It was worldwide. I've got many videos on it. Some more old pictures. Hey, there's my old friend right there. I'm going to put her on blast because she's going to watch this video. Naomi Reiber. There she is. Yep. All right. So I think we're almost done with these. The beautiful picture right there. The Sphinx is lined up perfectly with the cornerstone to the second pyramid. This is not the Great Pyramid. For those of you who get confused, this structure is not the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid is far to the right of this in this picture. This is the second pyramid, which is nowhere near the size as the Great Pyramid. It's on a raised platform. It creates the optical illusion from a distance of being the same size, but it's not. And the Sphinx is perfectly lined up with the cornerstone, a ground cornerstone right here. Oh, that's an awesome picture. Look at all that sand. It's amazing. None of that's there now. They've removed all the sand, guys. Now that they got the plateau showing, cracked plateau showing. For the life of me, I don't know what this is, but they built a brick structure underneath the Sphinx's head. I don't know what this is, but but considering what I'm about to tell you about the head as opposed to the rest of the Sphinx, it's not even important, because this appeared only in the late 1800s to 1900s. It was not there when it was originally. This is a newer construction. I'm wondering if they built something over this right here to hide what they were doing, tunneling into there to see if the Sphinx was hollow. I don't know. Anybody has any information on what this structure was they added to it? Because they've removed it. That structure is no longer there. I don't know why this brick structure was there. It's not on the old pictures, and it's not on the new pictures. It's just in 2 or 3 pictures I've acquired. Interesting, but it has nothing to do with this video. So, my intro pictures are over. I just want to know from the chat real quick, did you guys actually see? Was I still on the screen? I just need one person to answer me. Was I still on the screen the entire time I was showing those pictures? That's all I want to know. Okay, thank you, Dynamic One. Melody, thank you. Cool. All right. Big John, get off of here, man. Big John's got 40 minutes to get home in the rain. It's terrible outside, and you're going to pop into chat. Better get your ass home. All right, good. I'm glad y'all can see that. That's good. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that. Get on over here. So I got my intro pictures out of the way. Yeah, we got some mind-blowing stuff to cover, guys. For real. It's not without coincidence that this is the largest statue in the ancient world. It's the largest surviving statue. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world. A statue 240 feet long is amazing. 66 feet high. It's a building, guys. It's a building is what we're talking about. But this Colossus has no history. Egypt nor any civilization has ever recorded the building of the Sphinx, much less the building of the Great Pyramids. Absolutely nothing. It was the opinion of the ancient Greeks and Egyptians that the Sphinx was built by the gods. That's all they had to say about it. Built by the gods. All right. Man, who built that big old statue? Oh, the gods built that. Oh, okay. Just that simple. It's crazy. Now, it's not mentioned in the entire Bible. Nowhere in the Bible, allegedly some of the most ancient records in the world, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Nag Hammadi texts, nowhere, nothing. Nobody mentions the building. Nobody mentions the origin of the Sphinx. As a matter of fact, as we'll see in this presentation, there are whole civilizations that lived and died when the Great Sphinx was completely underground. So here's a real mystery. The Sphinx is not mentioned in any Old Kingdom text. Ancient Egyptian Old Kingdom texts completely ignore the existence of the Sphinx. That's not cool. Hancock and Bovell, Graham Hancock and Robert Bovell, they note that a guy named Salim Hassan in 1949 published that there is not a single ancient inscription which connects the Sphinx to Pharaoh Khafre. None. But it's in front of his pyramid. But there's none. That's pretty interesting. Now, Graham Hancock and Robert Bovell also state in their book, The Mystery of the Sphinx, The Message of the Sphinx, which is a really good book, by the way. But they specifically said that the Egyptians did not mention the Sphinx because the Egyptians did not build the Sphinx. They inherited it from a much earlier epoch. Now, I can agree and disagree. One, the Egyptians didn't build the Sphinx. The Egyptians, as we know them today, did not build the Sphinx. I agree. Where I disagree is chronology. because after making that statement, they then present the case that the Sphinx is far more ancient, but they use systems that I've already shown in Archaics didn't even exist back then. You cannot use the precession of the equinox. You cannot use the zodiac to date anything before the 8th century BC. So, but that's neither here nor there. I've already beat that dead horse too many times. So I have to give credit where credit is due. I cannot ignore, and I've cited him before. I've cited him in my published books. But Robert Temple, he's one of the first to come out and just say it. The Sphinx isn't a lion. The Sphinx is Anubis, the dog. Of course, Egyptologists laugh at him. And of course, most of mainstream academia laugh at him. And of course, most of the millions of people that follow the mainstream dismiss it as well. So Robert Temple kind of put himself out there. But I'm telling you now, Jason of Archaics is going to prove that case. Robert Temple's book is pretty compelling. But the whole world's come against the idea. And that's fine. That's fine. But the whole world hasn't been really examining the evidence as well. And that's what we're going to do right here. Because I am on board, even though I completely dismiss Robert Temple's assertions about anything in ancient aliens. Well, I am not on board with his book, The Sirius Mystery, and I have explained why I'm not on board with it in prior presentations. When it comes to identifying the Sphinx as a dog, which was later known in Egypt as Anubis, I'm on board, but for totally different reasons than put forth by Robert Temple. So we're going to get into those now. So Temple, in Temple's book, he cites Borchardt. I can't pronounce these names, guys. Borchardt. Borchardt. It sounds French or German to me, but anyway, Borchardt, he was the head of the German Institute of Cairo. It just sounds French to me, but he's the head of the German Institute of Cairo. He was the leading Egyptologist at the time. This man studied the head of the Sphinx. That's all he had to study because the whole body of the Sphinx was still underground. So he studied the head of the Sphinx and he came to the conclusion that the headdress of the Sphinx, this is a leading Egyptologist. He said the headdress of the Sphinx wasn't even introduced into Egyptian culture until the Middle Kingdom. The Old Kingdom pharaohs did not wear those headdresses that you see on the Sphinx. That right there is particularly noteworthy. He also said that there's pigment on the face, traces of pigment that was used in the eyeliner on the eyes. The research he did on this pigment and the styling of the eyes with the black marks and stuff in the stripes in the headdress, he perfectly identified that as the cosmetics that were vogue in the Middle Kingdom. But there isn't a trace of this practice in the Old Kingdom, Egypt. Huge difference. We're talking about 1,000-year difference. So the Middle Kingdom all of a sudden used these headdresses and they used that mascara on their eyes. The Old Kingdom, Egypt, did no such thing. So he publishes this and he finds that the head of the Sphinx, he says the head of the Sphinx dates to the Middle Kingdom. But this was unacceptable at the time because Egyptology had already declared that the Great Pyramid complex with the Sphinx involved were from the Old Kingdom pharaohs' 5th dynasty. And there's no way that the Sphinx would have been built in the Middle Kingdom far later. But this is where the mystery deepens because Robert Temple, very astute, he's a professor. The man, I will not take anything from him. He's very intelligent. He's knowledgeable. He's more knowledgeable than I am on many topics. He's just not more knowledgeable than I am in chronological issues. And Robert Temple, he noticed very astutely that Borchardt never said that the age of the Sphinx was from the Middle Kingdom. Borchardt only had access to the head, and he dated the head to the Egyptian Middle Kingdom based off its appearance and the pigment. The headdress and the pigment that was used on the eyes is Egyptian Middle Kingdom. Huge difference here. Egyptologists dated the face and the head. He did not date the body to the Middle Kingdom. So it was Robert Temple that noticed that and published it. Kudos to you, Robert. So it was also Robert Temple that Robert Temple also made several observations and comparative analysis between canines and felines. Robert Temple said that the statue does not in any way resemble a lion. It has a straight back, not a curved back. Is the shape of the rear legs and hindquarters are of a canine, not a feline, and especially the tail. It can't be a lion. There's no tuft on it. These are things that a lot of people have overlooked. So I want to give credit where credit is due. Thank you, Robert Temple, for opening my eyes to this, because it led down a whole rabbit trail. And that's where I'm taking you guys. I'm taking you guys on an adventure of discovery of everything I have found. Because thus far, every bit of this is just introduction. I haven't even started my presentation yet. Coffee's so good. All right, let's see. Where am I at now? Oh, I will say this. Robert Temple also quotes Egyptologist Wallace Budge. I have Wallace Budge's 2 books. Actually, Wallace Budge has written several books. I've got 2 of them up here. God, I got so many books now. His translation of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and he's got another one, Gods of Egypt. So he cites Robert Temple cites Wallace E. Budge, one of the greatest translators of Egyptian hieroglyphics. And Budge states, in ancient times, the Egyptians paid the greatest reverence and honor to the dog. Now, we can't ignore the cat. We can't ignore the cat in ancient Egypt. We all know that the cat was very prominent, but that's where the rabbit hole goes, guys, because there's a fundamental difference between what the ancient Egyptians said about the dog as opposed to what they said about cats. And we're going to talk about that in this video, and it's eye-opening. So a statue, the Sphinx, with no written beginning, with a head dated younger than its body, aged older than any civilization, and there's no written records as to its beginning, nobody recalls its origin, somehow became associated to a lion, but was originally a dog, and had been buried not once, but at least 3 times in the historical record. This is a mess that we're confronted with. Hancock, Bovell, Temple, and many others, they've all presented their evidences and theories and produced compelling books. I've read them. I've read most of them. Good books. But they didn't get to the heart of the matter. This analysis requires the expertise of a chronologist, and that's why the very last thing you're going to see in this video is a new chart that I only designed this morning. You have to see all this in chronological order for it to sink in what I'm about to share with you. Chronology is the key that puts the entire history of the world together and makes perfect sense of it. It completely removes all the interpolations, all the redactions, and all the fantasy. It's amazing, guys. The Sphinx has always guarded something for us, and it's still doing it today. And what it's guarding is very important to the human family, but it was only important to us concerning the last days. It's amazing, guys. We're going to be getting into the Gate of Rostau. Those of you who have read my book, The Lost Scriptures of Giza, you know what I'm talking about. This is where we're going. This is where we're going with this, guys. It gets deep. The Sphinx is a message, but somebody tried to change the meaning, and we're going to get to that. That's my introduction, guys. That's before my presentation even begins. That's my introduction. All right, make sure my chat's still going before we go into this. Before we start this presentation, let us see where we're at. 38 minutes in, and I'm just now starting my presentation. Chat looks good. Audio's still good. Man, guys, this is going to get great. Rostau is spelled, it's two ancient words, but it's spelled R-O-S. It's R-O-S-T-A-U. Rostau. In my Lost Scriptures of Giza, I go into, hey, Meryl, I just saw you in there, Meryl. Meryl, we need to talk. We've had a lot of activity on our end, on our little special project. So we need to get back. We need to get together. And with me being off Facebook, I seem to have a lot more free time. That's great. All right, let's see. I'm excited, guys. I'm excited. It's palpable. It's palpable. All right. Okay, let's see. Let me go ahead. Share my screen again. So we got some presentations to show you. Okay, look at this picture, guys. This is Anubis. This is the ancient Egyptian depiction of Anubis. I'm not going to go into details with you. I'm not going to even give a lot of commentary for these pictures. This is just a visual slideshow so you can better process the information I'm about to show you. Look at these images. This is what Anubis would be. Thank you, and thank you, Robert Temple, for providing this right here. This comes from Robert Temple. So, yeah, we appreciate that. Here's Anubis, the type of dog. Here, this is perfectly preserved Anubis, but it's late in Egyptian history. This is the 12th century BC. What you are looking at is actual artifacts that were excavated by Howard Carter in 1922 and 23 from King Tutankhamun's tomb. You've all heard of the Curse of Tutankhamun, but here it is. This is a depiction of Anubis. There's another Anubis. More ancient Egyptian ossuary, Anubis. There's Anubis. This is Robert Temple's first book, The Sirius Mystery. I don't like this book. I don't like his conclusions. I don't like the information. I don't like how some of that data was contorted to make it sound like ancient aliens. I'm not on board with all that. I'm not. You guys already know I'm vehemently against ancient aliens. I absolutely believe in the technological sophistication of the human race 5,000 years ago. Absolutely. It was called the Technolithic period. But no, there was no aliens, ain't no UFOs, and none of that. They didn't come down here. None of that crap. Here it is again, Anubis. I'm just showing you these. This is from Robert Temple too. I'm showing you these right here too. I want you to have a really good grasp, because we're going to be talking about things that have nothing to do with Egypt, and yet this is what you're going to see in your mind. There's Anubis artifact holding an Egyptian Ankh, key of life. Same statue we saw earlier. Oh, this is the cover for an old video of mine that's now been montaged into the Great Pyramid playlist videos. This is the cover of an old video, the Sphinx Enigma, water erosion, date falsification, and giant dog. I've been on this. I've already revealed this type of information about Anubis and the Sphinx, but I'm telling you now, this video was necessary because I have found far more material and linked it with some profound stuff that was never even mentioned in this video. So, yeah, this video was basically a brief overview. Robert Temple with Olivia Temple right here. This book is definitely recommended. I recommend this, even though he has voiced his opinions about ancient aliens. I can compartmentalize and I can separate this book from his earlier work, and I can tell you with the authority of Archaics that the Sphinx Mystery is a book worth reading. It is good. This is about Anubis. There they are. Anubis is everywhere. Okay, moving on. I want to just make sure everything's good. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, this series right here. Listen, I don't need to tell you. I'm just gonna let you. Who I want to see the first person in the chat that tells me the common denominator between all 21 of these pictures. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, wow, I was way off. Wow. Okay, look at this. That's over 30 pictures here, guys. Over 30 images here, and there's a common denominator that links them all. I want to see the first person in the chat to see it. Look closely. We're only paying attention to the Sphinx. Look closely at these pictures. There is one uniformity that every one of these pictures share. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. I want somebody in the comment section to say what it is. Not you, Don. Don't be giving stuff away. What is it? What is it, guys? What is it? Look at these pictures. Every single image I selected because it makes it obvious what we're looking at. A lot of people aren't going to get it until somebody tells them. But once you see it, once you're told what it is, you can't unsee it. Look at these pictures, guys. Every image has this one commonality it shares with every other image. And I'm not just talking about it's the Sphinx. Something about the Sphinx. Now, all this right here is me showing you these. Robert Temple didn't show all this. He just put me on to it. Look at that, guys. It's so obvious in this picture right here. You can't miss it. Super obvious in this picture. I'm going to go through them a little faster, guys, because you're going to see all these pictures again. Look at that. This one's so apparent that you should be embarrassed for not figuring it out. So obvious. Look at that one. Super obvious. There's two things you should be noticing. One major one, but there's two things you should be noticing about every single picture here. I specifically chose these pictures because both things are obvious from every one of them. All right, I'm going back. That's all. It's over 30 pictures. I want to see my comment section now. There's two things, guys. Only two. Golly, man. You guys went way back. Somebody said they're all pictures. Man, you better get off my channel with that, Pima. Meta, you didn't need to say that out loud because that was a total accident. There being 33 pics, man. Now you're going to get something started. That's why I didn't say it out loud. When I saw it was 11 per column, I already knew there's going to be people like you fishing that out, trying to make something out of nothing. Okay, I'm looking waterline, fake. My sister wants a cholo so bad. That's what it is. It's a cholo dog. It's a cholo dog. You're right. But that's not what I'm talking about. Some people are saying no nose, water, not real pics, juxtaposition, angle. Okay, we got the first right answer. There's two answers that are right. One of them is the head's too small. Jesse Murphy. I don't know if I went back far enough in the chat. Okay, Jesse Murphy. The head is too small. Absolutely. But there's one other. Do I need to show those again? There's one other you guys are missing. Okay, I see noses gone, water erosion in the desert, tiny head, cobra neck, Egypt, the eye, sky. There it is. Mr. Trevley. Got it. Mr. Trev Lee. Miscolored head from torso. Those are the two, guys. As I go down the list, I see more and more people got them. Those are the two. I'm still in screen sharing mode, ain't I? All right, well, let me show you again then. Now that they've been called out, now that you guys have isolated that, look at these pictures. The head is disproportionately too small for the body, and every photo shows the head is darker than the torso. We're dealing with two different time periods of rock. Look at that. The dark rock down here is on the bottom. Look at that head, torso, head, torso, head, torso, head, torso. Look at them. Even in the illustrations, they did it. Look at that. How do you get a head that small and a body that big? The paws are bigger than the head. The head is darker rock. Here's a real good. Head is darker rock. It looks like since this image was taken like 100 years ago, it looks like to me they may have bleached the head to make it match the torso more. They've done something. Because in all the older images, the head's dark. Look at this. You don't see that when you're a tourist in Egypt today taking pictures of the Sphinx. That's not what you see anymore. Why? What have they done? Look how dark that head is. There's so many examples. Look how small that tiny ass head is compared on an animal that size. Where the head is would only be a neck. There should only be a neck there. The head would be higher. Can't make this stuff up, guys. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So, go back here. We'll get to the water damage here in a minute. A bunch of y'all mentioned that, but that's not the point of those images right there. Drink my coffee. Okay. As you can see, many of you are correct. The body is heavily damaged while the head is not. The head is not. And the head's way too tiny. Something else has happened. We're going to get to that. So let's go ahead and show the next pictures. Real short. We need to see some aerial views so you guys can actually process. Are you processing this? Are you looking at the size of this immense statue in this little pimple of a head that it has? And the head has a full headdress. But originally, that full headdress was a thick neck. It was just a neck. They cut the whole neck out in the front and then carved the face. It's so obvious. It is so obvious from an aerial view what they did. This isn't the original Sphinx, guys. The original Sphinx was all this too. They cut this out to create this effect. And the head is disproportionately too small. Here's another vantage point right here. You're not looking at the full head now. From this vantage point, you're looking at the headdress. Look how tiny the headdress is as opposed to the rest of the statue. No good. Epic fail. Epic fail. Here's another aerial view. Face is tiny. That's a headdress you see. But at one time, that headdress was a neck that went out to here. They chiseled it all out. This is a famous photo, guys. This is a famous photo taken in the 1800s from a balloon. One of the very first, it is the very first aerial photo of the Sphinx. Look at that. Look how dark. Look how dark that head is compared to that torso. All right. So move all this down. All right. I need to show you these pictures. All right, look at this. Look at the erosion. You guys can see it. Not just the Sphinx, but the erosion on the Sphinx matches all that around it as well. I'll show you this in a minute. You can see the erosion real well. There it is. There's a photograph of it real good. Now, we're told by Robert Schoch, Hancock, and Bovell that water erosion from thousands of years of rainfall did this. You guys already know, my archaics veterans, you know I beg to differ. Rainfall didn't do that at all, guys. They're trying to date the Sphinx and the Great Pyramids to 10,000 BC. And they're trying to use uniformitarian geology to do that by claiming rainfall did this and created this geological formation. And it's all bullshit. Rain didn't do that. Look at the front of the Sphinx. It's terrible. Again, you can see how bad that weathering is. It's bad. Just showing you a few. Now, the Sphinx, do you see these blocks on the side of the Sphinx? Later pharaohs tried to protect the Sphinx. It was weathered in their days as well. Later pharaohs tried to protect those, and then other people came after hundreds and hundreds of years and removed blocks for building materials. A lot of Muslims did that as well. They stripped the Giza complex of every brick they could carry, to build Cairo, and other structures, and to use as ballast in roads and ballast for ships and stuff like that. But the Sphinx was never protected like the Great Pyramids were. The Great Pyramids, throughout their entire history, had these gigantic white limestone mirror smooth casing blocks. Only recently, in the last 700 years, were those casing blocks removed. And I've got videos that explain that history, how the Muslims, after an earthquake, saw that they had an almost unlimited supply of building material from the facial shielding of the Great Pyramids. And they stripped it. And that's what these original blocks, and we know those original blocks are there because they were discovered in 1837 by Colonel Howard Weiss's archaeological team. 4 blocks are still sitting in situ today. Here they are. They were drawn right here at the bottom. Also on my channel, I show actual photographs of those blocks. Proof that the Great Pyramid was once covered in 144,000 white, shiny limestone casing blocks that were 100 inches thick. So it was a huge mantle, a covering. So since then, in the last 700 years, the Great Pyramid has been uncovered. That's why it looks the way it does. The Sphinx and the Sphinx temples never had that shielding. They never had any of that. And that's profound. We need to address that. So let's stop screen. I'm gonna remove that. Check my. Let's see. All right. Okay. Oh yeah, guys, we got Jamie Robbins. The Sphinx is a wooden head built on a rock body. I don't know, man. It may be. I tend to believe that what you're looking at today is the original neck of the original Sphinx, but in thousands of years after it was originally carved and then damaged by a cataclysm we're going to be talking about, then later pharaohs dug it up, found it, and they found this stump that didn't have a head. So they went ahead and turned that stump into a pharaoh's likeness. We're going to get to that, guys, because this is going to get super interesting. These pictures are designed to get you to thinking, because when I go full tilt into this presentation about what all these legends and traditions said, you're going to be thinking about these pictures you've seen. It's amazing stuff, guys. It's just amazing stuff. So, but you know that it has long been an unusual tradition from early Egypt that after a period of chaos and desolation, the god Ptah visited the world and dried away all the waters to create land. Now, this was only done in Lower Egypt. And for those who've been following my channel for a while, you will know that the Egyptian Delta, the area of Goshen where the ancient Israelites used to live, was once known as the raised land. It was acknowledged that that entire area used to be underneath the Mediterranean Sea. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. So the mystery of the weathering of the Sphinx compared to the Great Pyramid, it's simply because during the pre-cataclysm period, before the month of May in the year 2239 BC, we all know that's the collapse of the vapor canopy. That's the day the sky fell. In the Bible, that's the Great Flood. This is all the same event. 2239 BC. All the Giza monuments were intact and protected in white limestone, except for the small pyramid, which is protected in like red limestone. But the two temples around the Sphinx and the Sphinx were unprotected. They didn't have any shielding blocks at all. And this makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. What you saw was water damage. And I'm going to show you more pictures. You saw water damage, but that wasn't rainfall at all. Because if you're going to claim that that was rainfall, then there's a lot of other archaeological sites that you need to examine as well that look identical to it, but are nowhere near that age. Nowhere near that age. So Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval, they believe that this damage was precipitation induced, a theory that advances the age of the Sphinx to way before we have any evidence of any human civilizations in this world. They're trying to get us to believe in a 10th millennium or 11th millennium BC date. Now, you guys already know. Anybody following my channel already knows. Mr. Hancock will never debate me on the dating of Atlantis being 9,600 BC. And he's a smart man. I don't even denigrate him for that. He would be a fool to debate me on that when I have so many freely published data sets for everybody to see. I'm pretty sure Mr. Hancock's gone through my data sets as well. That man's not dumb. He's not dumb, but he has spent a lot of his career trying to convince people that Atlantis was 9,600 BC. And he had to ignore a whole slew of academics and ancient authors that I cite who all corrected Plato. And it wasn't 9,000 years, it was 9,000 moons. And this was widely known 2,000 years ago. It was widely known 15 centuries ago. It was really known 500 years ago among many academics and scholars, and it's known today. So I don't understand why he continues to push that narrative unless he's still trying to push the Sphinx as being the same age. But all those narratives fall apart on scrutiny, as we'll see here. So this what we have is flood damage. We have major flood damage. It doesn't mean the whole world was flooded. I'm not even trying to promote that. It means, just like the ancients say, for some of you are not aware that Diodorus Siculus and Strabo, both of them geographers in the ancient world, produced in their writings claiming that the Great Sahara Desert in northern Egypt used to be a part of the Mediterranean. It used to be a sea. But that area, just like the northern Mediterranean, is called the Adriatic, and it's called the Aegean. Excuse me, the Aegean. Yeah, and it's attached to the Black Sea. The southern Mediterranean, according to these ancient authors, was called the Triton Sea. Every bit of that sand from the Sahara is full of seashells. Frederick Norton Lewis in the 1740s and 50s was examining the Great Pyramid site, and the Sphinx was buried up to its chin, and he said that there were seashells everywhere. Frederick Norton Lewis, one of the first modern-day explorers of ancient Egypt. Now, according to El Morsi, though, the writer El Morsi, he said that the first 20 levels of the Great Pyramid of Giza bear evidence of erosion caused by deep water saturation. We're talking about the Great Pyramid being underwater for 20 levels, then we're talking about the Sphinx being completely underwater for a while. We can't ignore that. We can't ignore that. I believe we got more to share here. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let's see. All right. So if I'm still screen sharing, I should be able to show this one. So these patterns, guys, look at this. What do you see here? Oh, it's the Sphinx. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's New Mexico. Geologists tell us that all this was underneath water at one time. Look at this. This is the ziggurat of Nippur. We're talking about a structure that's only 4,400 years old. Look.
There's no picture, honey.
Right now there is.
No, we can't see it.
Gotta be kidding me, man. Wow. All right. We're going to try this again. Screen share. Share screen. Entire screen. All right. Let me know in the chat if you see this. Okay. This right here is water. This right here is water damage. No, it wasn't caused by rainfall. This is the ziggurat at Nippur, ancient Sumerian, 44 centuries old. We're talking 4,400 years old. Look what it looks like. There's no way the Sphinx is 12,000 years old. Again, this right here is from water flow. This is post-cataclysm. Erosion from flowing water, not rainfall. Here it is right here. Why is it different for these other parts of the world? Why do these authors get to claim that that this right here used to be underwater? This all used to be suboceanic, right here, full of water. So why do these patterns not get applied to the Sphinx? It's the same pattern. Look at that. Flowing water caused this erosion, not same as the Sphinx. Look at this. It's beautiful. Grand Canyon. I've been there twice, United States. Flowing water. Flowing water did all that. Flowing water did all that. Do you see these tops right here? A lot of people think they're giant trees. I don't subscribe to that, but I'm not going to knock them for it. I'm not going to knock them for it. To me, what I see is an ancient landmass. This used to be, since they're all the same height, I'm looking at this at one time, a long time ago, this used to be the original surface. The rest of it all around it eroded away. It was taken away by water. Easy to see where the ancient water level was. It was right here at the top. These were islands. Again, I ain't gonna lie, it does look like a tree. Okay, so I know you guys saw those, or the boss would have come in here and told me. All right. That's a weird comment. For someone whose handle I've never seen before, Ancient Art Revived, criticizing me about not changing my narrative. You got to be new to my channel. I don't even care though. I really don't care, man. My last two videos were full of new people I've never seen before that didn't have a damn thing positive to say. All right, let's see here. Oh, we already been through all that. Now,
He was talking about Graham Hancock.
oh, let's see here. I may have misinterpreted that. I don't know, Matt. It's hard for me to focus on this and look at the chat. So, by the time we found the Sphinx, let's go ahead and disassociate from the ancient past. By the time we found the Sphinx, this is what we found right here. Look at this. Do you guys see that? This is what we found. Right there. This is what we found. It was already buried. The pyramids are buried in sand up to about a fourth. This is what we found right here. This is the earliest known photograph of the Great Sphinx. This is just an artist's rendition of what they were looking at when they drew the picture. This is how we found the area. It's all very consistent. Here's Napoleon in Egypt, or at least an illustration of who Napoleon may have looked like, if the dude existed at all. Here's an artist rendition right here. It's a real good one. Look at that. Everything underground. This is how we found the area right here. These are the oldest known illustrations I'm showing you guys. That's a photo. Yeah, man. Even the pyramids were buried. It's crazy. It's amazing. I love these old pictures. That's a lot of people hanging around there. What'd you need all those people there for? What were y'all doing? Y'all up to no good. All right, so I know you saw those pictures. So, let me see what the next part was to share. Oh, yeah, we got to share this. Some of you guys have seen these pictures, artist renditions, digital art people have done, the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx underwater. Yeah. And those of you who have gone through my published books, like Lost Scriptures of Giza, you'll know that the Great Pyramid complex was partially underwater. The Sphinx was underwater for 340 years. 340 years. The Sphinx was subject to Mediterranean currents. Yeah, guys. Sure was. Look at this. This is amazing. I just cited that dude, El Morsi, but listen to this. The fossil was discovered at the Giza Plateau. El Morsi and Gigal wrote, "We can clearly see the pristine condition and minute details of the exoskeleton. Perforation, which means that this marine creature must have been petrified in recent times." Now, what makes this crazy is this fossil, this oceanic fossil, was found on top of a limestone block. Yeah. During one of the documentations of the ancient coastline, I almost tripped with a block of the second level of the temple. El Morsi says on his website, Gig Owl Research. To my surprise, the bump on the top surface of the block that almost tripped me was, in fact, an exoskeleton of a fossil of what appears to be, I don't know what that is, echinoid sea urchin, which are marine creatures that live in relatively shallow waters. I bet it was very beautiful. I bet it was beautiful. Clear water, Great Pyramids were submerged in the waters. And this is why in my Lost Scriptures of Giza, we have so many traditions about the two holy mountains surrounded by water. They were inaccessible. Yeah. This is amazing, guys. Here's a fossil on top of a limestone block at the Sphinx. Can't make this shit up. Now, here's it. Here, this is I want to draw to your attention here. So the ancient coastline he's talking about is right here. The ancient Mediterranean coastline goes all the way past Giza. For those who don't know, Egyptian pyramids are only found around the Great Pyramids, Saqqara. They're all in the far north. Then there's 400 miles of desert between the two Egypts. It's always called two Egypts. That's why it was called the two kingdoms. Down here, you have Thebes, the Temple of Ramses. You have Edfu, Karnak, Dendera, Luxor, Abydos. You have all that down here. But you don't have a single pyramid. This is the Egypt of Hollywood. This is what they always show, all amazing things. However, 400 years up here, you have an older Egypt that has a bunch of pyramids. And a bunch of these pyramids have been underwater. It's a whole different civilization. This was the pre-flood Technolithic civilization that built Giza and the Sphinx. When the 340 years was over, there was an earthquake in the year 1899. I've documented this in my Chronicon. After 1899 and the waters drained off, it left these 9 rivers called the 9 Bows in a salt marsh. It's there today. It's called Goshen. It's where the ancient Israelites lived for a while. That area forms a perfect triangle of 9 rivers that form the Nile Delta. So this that means that for 340 years since the Phoenix Cataclysm in 2239 BC, Phoenix being Typhon, since the Phoenix Cataclysm all the way to 1899 BC, which is the Tower of Babel incident, the great earthquake of North Africa, ever since that incident, it's 340 years. And for those 340 years, very, very conveniently, Egyptologists call that the intermediate period. The reason they call it the intermediate period is because it separates the Old Kingdom from the Middle Kingdom. The reason it separates is because 300 years, there was no progress. There's no evidence of civilization. It's an intermediate period. The reason, it was all underwater. Now, this is what you find in the Archaics chronology with all the sources that back that up. Egypt, this is why Lower Egypt was called the raised land. It raised up out of the sea. And the Mediterranean got pushed back. And that's exactly what Diodorus Siculus and Strabo talk about. One day, after an earthquake, the Triton Sea dried up. Of course it dried up. The whole North African plate in an earthquake came up about 60 feet. It came up about 60, 70 feet. And that's what drained all the Sahara out, put all that water back into the Mediterranean. And it's been there ever since. All right. So let's get out of there. Go see what my next file is. Oh, we're getting in there, guys. We're getting in there. Let me check my chat. Stop sharing. Let me check my chat real quick. Yeah, the chart I'm going to show you at the end is going to put all this together for you. It's amazing too. Makes sense of all the anomalies. Yeah, the flooding and all that. There's no evidence of that in Upper Egypt. In all the south, where the Valley of the Kings is and all that, there's no evidence of flooding down there at all. Those cities weren't interrupted. It was the north where all the pyramids are. All right, so Oh man, we haven't even got to the juicy. You guys just don't know. Got some awesome stuff to show you. I needed to get through all these pictures so you can have a good idea of what we're talking about before you hear what the ancients said about the giant dog. That's where we're going with this. Yeah, the flooding was recent, guys. Ebony, what is that? Ebony McKickass? Oh, that's good. Ebony McKickass, 29, 23 years. Something wrong with that. They don't even look right. Hold on. Just to satisfy you guys' curiosity, it's 2024 right now. It's 2024 right now. The Sphinx was buried underwater in Mediterranean silts and all that 4,262 years ago. 4,262 years ago. And it was 3,923 years ago. 3,920, almost 4,000 years ago, when those Mediterranean waters in an earthquake suddenly pulled out and left the Sphinx buried in sand. When those waters pulled out, I don't think the dog head was there anymore. But then again, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Let's see here. All right, let's go with this next one here. Is that my last file before I go into this long deal? See what's going on here. Oh, okay. Let's share that screen. I'm getting the hang of this, guys. One of these days I won't be tech retarded anymore. Present, share screen, entire screen, click, there. I'm done. Did it. Oh, we don't want to show that one yet. Yeah, we don't want to show any of that yet. Okay, so we don't want to share the screen. All right. I'm getting organized, guys. It's a lot of material to collate. And then to have it out in perfect sequential order for you guys to get the business is not that easy. So I need you to listen to this. Especially my Native American, my Mexican, my Central American and South American brothers. You need to listen to this because it's amazing. This is Aztec tradition as passed down from the Toltecs and Zapotecs, who inherited this from the Maya, who in turn got much of their material from the Olmeca. This is where we're going. According to these ancient American traditions, a big flood was caused by Tlaloc. You got to forgive me, I can't pronounce these names. They are so weird. Tlaloc. Either Tlaloc or Tlaloc caused a big flood. He was the water god, and he had wiped out all previous civilizations. But some actions had to be taken before the earth could flourish again. And this was left over to the goddess Sitlinicu. To me, it looks like Sitlinicu. I really don't know. Who is believed to be the mother of Quetzalcoatl and Chotl. Now, this should be Cholo. It looks like it's supposed to say Cholo. Starts with an X. Cholot or something. Now, this goddess sends her sons, Quetzalcoatl and his brother, Cholo, who's a dog. and sends them to the underworld to retrieve the bones of humans so they can start a new race on the surface. I'm not embellishing, guys. This is actually taken out of all these books on the Aztecs, and it's amazing, guys. And I cited all these books in my Lost Scriptures of Giza. So we have this goddess sends her sons. One of them is the feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl. One of them is a dog, Cholo. And they go to the underworld to get bone matter material from humans that are in the underworld serving under the god of the underworld. Underworld is called Mictlan. And they go down there and they get these materials and they come back up, and the goddess is able to use these bones to create a new human race because the god of waters killed everybody in all the civilizations. So, thank you. So we have, these were retrieved from Mictlan, and Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, mixed his own blood with the bones to revive humanity. What's really interesting here is that Quetzalcoatl is the feathered serpent, and the feathered serpent over and over plays the role of the phoenix in ancient American traditions. The phoenix bleeds red rain, red must, and red dust on the world when it appears, just like it did in 2239 BC when it destroyed most of the old Bronze Age civilizations. The Technolithic period was ended by the phoenix, also called Typhon. So, and when Phoenix or Typhon appears, what happens? All my Archaics veterans know, Phoenix appearances are always attended by red dust, red rain, red mud. It depends on the relative humidity of any area as to how the phenomenon will manifest. But this is also something that happens with Quetzalcoatl. And here Quetzalcoatl is adding his blood to the mixture of the bones of humans to create a new race. The god of death, Cholat, or I think it's Cholat. He makes a dog. His name comes from the word dog. This is the brother of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. So he's the god of death, but he makes a dog that is then given to men. He didn't make himself. He's the daughter of a goddess. But he makes a dog. And then he gives the dog a name, Cholo, who is charged to protect mankind. Cholo was charged to guide the souls of the dead through the underworld, called Mictlan, to ensure that they can reach the heavens. They have to go to the underworld to reach the heavens. Now, he was set specifically to guard the entrance to the underworld. Aztecs maintained a belief that the souls of the dead must pass over a river. I don't know how to pronounce this. Chukunopa? Chikunaopa? I don't know how to pronounce it, but the literal translation in Nahuatl, the Aztec language, is the 9 rivers, where the deceased must pay a toll to a giant dog. What? Oh, it gets better than that. It's going to get way better than this. The dead would travel 7 levels of the underworld to get to a subterranean river called Apinawaukuaya. I don't even know how to say that. But this river in the underworld's unswimmable. But Cholo would be on the edge, and he would help you swim across to get to the 8th level of hell. 8 is new beginnings. Remember, when 7 pass, 7 is a cycle. When 7 pass, 8 is number 1 of the next 7. This is why 8 is a closed loop, an infinity symbol. 8 is the number of new beginnings. It always takes you back to the beginning. 8 is number 1 of the next 7. So, while the feathered serpent was always promised to return, the god Cholo became a guardian and guide of the underworld and afterlife and disappeared from the traditional records. That's very interesting because Quetzalcoatl didn't disappear. The feathered serpent became the main object of admiration in the Aztec world. So, archaeologists have found dogs entombed in temples in the pyramid city of the Toltecs, Tenochtitlan, however you say it. This links the Aztec dog to the concept of the pyramid. And the 10th day of the Aztec 20-day cycle calendar bears the name Cholo, the dog. Dogs appear in the underworld scenes on Mayan pottery and in the Popol Vuh of the ancient Mayan tradition, one of the most important sources in all Maya mythology. There are references to a dog that is associated in ancient times to fire, death, storm, and lightning. Oh, that's Phoenix phenomenon stuff. End of the world type stuff. So the Aztec traditions combine, pay attention, remember in archaics, the reason we learn so much from so disparate materials is because we reduce everything to their lowest common denominators. This is what you must do in comparative mythology. And when you're trying to compare anything, when you're from diverse sources, when you reduce everything by culture has all kinds of attachments to it that different peoples, nationalities, races, prejudices have attached to these ideas. When you reduce everything to its lowest common denominators, you come out with this. The Aztec traditions combine the themes of the phoenix, a flood cataclysm, a dog guardian watching a portal to the underworld that involves a journey to another world. Call it the afterlife. Those are the common denominators in the ancient American systems. Those are what we need to pay attention to because it's all relative to the study. Ooh, that coffee's hot and good. Hello, Carol. Now, Norse mythology. What would Norse mythology? What would the Vikings, Scandinavia, Denmark, the Danelaw, what would all of that have to do with ancient American belief systems? What? In Norse mythology, we have Garm, a giant hound dog who lives at the entrance to hell. Our modern word hell for the underworld comes from the Norse, Hel, who is a goddess. An underworld, hell. His size and strength and ferocity were legendary. He is described as both a guard dog and a wolf, and he is chained in a place called Niphellir. Can't pronounce that either. In the Ragnarok, at the end of the world, he will break his chains after emitting a great howl to announce the end. Okay, for those of you who don't know, I've got a lot of video material and published material on Ragnarok. And this great howl I have already theorized based off other ancient traditions from the imams, from ancient Islamic material. In my books, I quote Islamic sources and ancient Arabic sources that talk about this howling trumpet sound. And to me, I honestly believe that when the Great Tribulation is about to unfold after the breaking of the seven seals, the whole world's going to know it because there's going to be a reverberation that comes from the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid is going to sound off like a horn. It's going to be like a trumpet blast, and the entire world is going to hear it. And I know it sounds hard to believe, but this is also in the traditions, and maybe the noise is carried around the world by telecommunications. I don't know, but this is something that's in the traditions about this great howl that introduces the final battles and the final unfolding of the Ragnarok in the last days tribulation. So the ancient Arabic Muslim prophecies have a lot in common with the Norse and the Zoroastrian that talk about this great, and the Judaic that talk about this great horn blast in the last days. So, okay, let's see. I'm not sharing my screen, so I need to get this. So what are the common denominators here? We don't have a lot out of Norse mythology, but what are the great common denominators? We have a giant dog at the entrance of the underworld connected to the end of the world. This is Ragnarok. So let's move forward, because remember, in accurately interpreting the seven seals in the book of Revelation, we have to defer to the Greek. They were written in Greek. Greek was the international language. They come from the Greek prophecies. So this is what we got to do. Ancient Greek myths of Cerberus. Oh, you guys have heard of Cerberus. Now, the Aztec story of gathering the bones of the dead humans to make a new race after the cataclysm are the exact same stories that are found in ancient Greece. From the Pelagians and the pre-Archean people, they had the same story about after the flood, the survivors of the flood, Deucalion, which means new wine sailor. Remember, Noah made wine. As soon as after the flood, Noah made wine in the book of Genesis and got drunk. His wife, in the Greek myths, his wife is Pyrrha. Well, Pyrrha is the color of that wine. This is what the mythographers say. But I don't agree. I don't agree that the flood survivor's wife, Pyrrha, has anything to do with red wine. It has everything to do with the red ochre that the ancients buried their loved ones in every time the Phoenix phenomenon happened and a cataclysm occurred as it was raining red dust, red rain, and red mud. So, but it's okay. That's just a small data point. I just disagree with the mythographers about Pyrrha meaning red in reference to the wine that her husband made. No, it has everything to do with the Phoenix fallout that happens. So Deucalion and Pyrrha did the same thing. They took bones because there were no humans and they threw them over their shoulders. As they walked, they threw them over their shoulders to sprout up a new human race after a cataclysm. This is what they did. I don't believe in coincidences, guys. I don't even care if the story is told in opposite hemispheres. They have a core common origin. They would have to. They're too similar. So now in the Deucalion and Pyrrha flood, the flood had been caused by Typhon. We all know when Typhon appeared, a dreaded god, all the Olympian gods got scared. What did they do? They fled to Egypt. I've cited this over and over and over. There are many ancient authors that all talk about this. It's in my videos and published books. The gods fled to Egypt every time the Phoenix appeared. This is what they did. So, also, we find that in the book of Tobit, an apocryphal text, Raphael, an archangel, Raphael chases a demon, Asmodeus of Persia. And the demon is engaged in tormenting a girl and killing all the girl's would-be lovers. So Raphael appears, and Asmodeus sees the archangel and takes off. And the book of Tobit says that the archangel Raphael had to pursue Asmodeus, who fled to Egypt. What? It's amazing, guys. You can't make this. There's no coincidences. There's no coincidences. So Typhon has a son, another monster. And Typhon, this is the Phoenix now. Typhon has a son named Cerberus, a three-headed hellhound. Three-headed hellhound. The three heads were a giant dog with lion-like features. Yeah. I mean, excuse me, it was a three-headed hellhound, but it was described as a giant dog with lion-like features. The three heads were thought to represent the past, the present, and the future. But anybody who's read my Lost Scriptures of Giza will know this is the core belief of many ancient peoples about the Great Pyramid in Egypt. That the Great Pyramid of Egypt, in geometry and in its measurements, preserved in secret all the secrets of the past, the present, and the future, but it wouldn't be decoded until the last days. So this is really interesting that Cerberus, this giant dog, is associated with that concept. This is so. Cerberus was chained, just like Garm, the Norse dog Garm that guarded the entrance to the underworld and was preserved for an event that was going to occur in the last days. That's the Norse tradition. But right here, the ancient Greek tradition of Cerberus says that Cerberus was a giant dog and he too was chained. So he was chained. Get this. He was what was this? Let me look at my note here. He was chained at the entrance to the underworld, but his chain also allowed him to walk the banks of a river in the underworld called Acheron. That's interesting because Acheron derives from an ancient root that in Egypt was Acher, and it means guardian. That's pretty interesting. Cerberus would not harm the dead. If the dead willingly came into the underworld, Cerberus would actually tend to them and communicate with them, and he wasn't all bad. But as soon as a soul decided to turn around and try to return to the land of the living, Cerberus turned into a three-headed demon. So, ancient writers have all described that Cerberus had the features of a dog, the features of a wolf, and the features of a lion all combined together. That was Cerberus. Now, the traditions of Cerberus bridge for us a few concepts. Remember, reducing everything to its lowest common denominators. Cerberus bridges for us Typhon, which is the phoenix, connects it to Egypt, connects it to cataclysms, a gate of the underworld, a giant dog, connected to the concepts of past, present, and future. We're getting somewhere, guys. So we have to stick with the Greek right now, but we just can't omit Greek myths about the Sphinx. The Greeks did tell us a little bit, not much. You can find almost nothing about the Sphinx. In the oldest epics, Hesiod, Theogony, Works and Days, we read that the Sphinx was the offspring of a two-headed monstrous dog. And others claimed it was the offspring of Typhon himself, the phoenix. That's exactly what we just learned a minute ago, which made the Sphinx a sibling with Cerberus. The ancient Greeks believed the same thing the Aztecs did. There it is right there. They believe the same thing, that the phoenix was kin to Cholo, the dog. So, what is dog claim? Okay, yeah, offspring of Typhon, the phoenix, which made the Sphinx a sibling with Cerberus. In fact, there are some ancient sources that even give the Sphinx a very curious name. That name is Phix. It's Phoenix without the N. It's just Phix. All right. The Greeks associated the Sphinx with the land of Ethiopia, Africa, and claimed that it killed all those that approached that could not answer her riddles. The Sphinx was also responsible for the death of the entire ancient world. That's a heavy statement. They associated that giant statue of a dog to the death of the old world. So the themes bridged here in the Greek memories of the Sphinx is a monstrous dog, kin to Typhon, the phoenix, a cataclysm, in Africa. All right, let's see here. So having said all that, let's go to Africa. Let's look at Let's look at Anubis. What do we know about Anubis? I'm going to tell you right now. The ancient god Anubis was a dog-faced deity, and he was depicted as a dog, a recumbent dog, sitting down all the time. Guardian of the dead. Patron god of lost souls, able to move in and out of the underworld. He is the protector of the tombs of the gods. His title in Egypt was He Who Is Upon His Mountain. Sounds like the Great Pyramid to me. Anubis is also depicted, is most often depicted as a recumbent jackal. And that may be just because that's the most popular dog in ancient Egypt. Just like the Cholo dogs in Mexico look a lot like jackals, but they're the most popular dog in that hemisphere. In North America and Central America. So Anubis is depicted in the First Dynasty tomb art. Are you understanding this? This is amazing because we already have it on Egyptological authority that there are no depictions or references to the Sphinx anywhere in the first in the first dynasties of ancient Egypt. And yet in First Dynasty art, we already have tombs that show the chief of the necropolis, the master of secrets, and the dog who swallows millions. That's his title in the First Dynasty, the dog who swallows millions. That's his title in ancient Egypt, First Dynasty of Egypt. He escorted the dead on their journey to the afterlife. Now, Plutarch, one of our greatest authorities in the ancient world, on the more ancient world, Plutarch relates that Anubis was the son of Set. There's probably only about 5% of you listening to me who caught that. Plutarch relates that Anubis, the giant dog, is the son of Set. This is amazing, guys. Because Set is another name for Typhon. Over and over. This isn't Jason telling you this. Anybody can get an encyclopedia. Anybody can get reference books, man, on Greeks. Robert Graves, the Greek myths, the White Goddess, Bullfinch's mythology. It doesn't matter. Edith Hamilton, the Greek myths. It doesn't matter. Anybody you look up is going to tell you the two names in the ancient world are absolutely interchangeable. Set is Typhon. Typhon and Set are the same person. Typhon is the same person as Phoenix. Same phenomenon. So, what we have Plutarch here telling us is that Anubis, the giant dog, is the offspring of the Phoenix. Phoenix caused the cataclysm that destroyed the ancient world. Do you see how every data point becomes a chain link, and when you put them all together, it's tight. It's perfectly tight. Every link fits right into the other. From all my past Phoenix presentations. So, yeah, mob syndicate, you're right. A lot of modern etymology derives from these terms. Sunset means it is now dark. That's what Typhon represented, darkening of the sun. No doubt. So further evidence of this is that Anubis defeats Set in a battle, and the result of the battle is a red mineral that dusts the whole land of Egypt and makes it look like that Egypt is bleeding. What? That's amazing. To me, it's amazing, especially when I have a whole chronological history of the world in 138-year intervals that shows that the world bled multiple times every time the Phoenix appeared. That's amazing. So the themes connected just in our understanding of what the ancients, the first dynasty from the very beginning, said about this psychopomp, this guardian and this guide to human souls that find themselves lost in the underworld, Anubis. The common denominators here are Egypt, guardian of the underworld, a guide of souls, a psychopomp, a divine dog, and the earliest protector of the mountain, born of Phoenix. Man, you just can't make this stuff up. I do know that people new to my channel that have not done all the listening that everybody else in the chat has done probably think I'm out of my mind. What is that dumbass talking about? I get it. But if you knew what my Archaics veterans knew about all this data presented in other presentations, you would be having mind explosions right now from listening to all these traditions about the giant dog that's set before the holy mountain in ancient Egypt. So this is a dog. Why not a cat? So the cat in ancient Egypt, it was a domestic feline, a lion or a leopard, and they were regarded as protectors of the living. They were regarded as protectors of the household, the domicile, and the individual, and even the nobility. They were wards against rodents, serpents, and evil spirits that haunted the living. Cats had a very different role in ancient Egypt. Very different. They were also kept as familiars and pets. The cat in Egypt was an animal of the living, and there is nothing in Egyptian traditions that suggests that cat was known for guarding the underworld, for escorting the dead, or associated with the afterlife at all. This is particularly important when demonstrating that the Sphinx was never a lion. How did that come to be? How did the whole world come to the conclusion that the Sphinx was a lion? Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to show you. It was a dog from the beginning. So I'm going to show you some pictures real quick. Randy Millwood. Love my dog. Yeah, man. Love those dogs. Love those dogs. So let's share my screen. We still got some more sharing to do, guys. All right. Oh, I'm getting better at this. Here's something a little visual for you. For those of you who need it. Aztecs knew of a place called the 9 Rivers where the souls of the dead paid a toll to a dog. Same as the ancient Egyptian Rostau at the 9 Bows, where souls of the dead entered, where is located the Great Sphinx. The Sphinx and the pyramids are right here. You see Giza? That's Giza right there. That's the head of the 9 Bows. There's the 9 Rivers. All of this used to be under the Mediterranean. That's why we found that fossil here at Giza, right here. All this used to be underneath the Mediterranean, and this is where the Sphinx got all its damage. 340 years underneath the salt water of the Mediterranean. That's where the damage came from. Not 10,000, 12,000 years of rainfall. This is where it got it. Aztec traditions. Don't think they didn't know about the Great Pyramid and cycles of time and the ancient pole star and all. They knew all about it. Because this image right here, you see this? It's often called the Aztec calendar stone, but it's actually called the stone of the 5th sun. This is amazing. The stone of the 5th sun, a Toltec relic of 22 tons preserved by the Aztecs, exhibited at Yale Peabody Museum. Just like the book of Revelation has Jesus appearing at the end of the timeline, and protruding from his mouth is a sword. The Aztecs too noticed. that this guy here doesn't have a tongue coming out of his mouth. You can't really see, it's too blurry, but he has a blade. It is a weapon, a dagger coming out of his mouth. What does it mean? It means that this person doesn't need to fight with weapons. This person is so powerful that their words command obedience. That's what this is. Why is he at the center? Because all of this is the history of the world in cataclysms. This is the calendar. This is the stone of the fifth sun. Four sons have already been born and died. This is the fifth sun. Here are the four glyphs of the last days cataclysms and what's going to happen. And when you study this deal, you come across a belief in Draconis, the feathered serpent, also called Draco. Here is the pole star. Here is the ancient dragon. This is the fall of the dragon when the Great Pyramid was made. It's all hidden in the Mexican art. It's all here. This is all that's in my one of my published books. This is right here on the 22-ton stone, Toltec stone of the fifth sun. You have this symbol right here. This is the symbol for four movement. This is day number 4 under the segment of the calendar called movement. This is 4 movement. It shows a 7-pointed star. In my books, I show that the 7-pointed star produces the pyramid angle perfectly. It has crossed bars, which in Aztec and Toltec, crossed bars mean the completion of a cycle. A single bar is a cycle. Crossed bars mean a cycle is concluded. Look at this. A pyramid below crossed bars with the pole star symbol, the eye, below the Aztec doomsday glyph. Do you see that? That is the Aztec doomsday symbol. Above an eye, above a pyramid, with crossed bars, meaning the cycle is complete. When is the cycle complete? It's complete when this guy shows up and says it's done. Because he has the power to make war by speech and he does not have to fight. He's in the middle because he's the end of the cycle. Who is it? It's the top of the pyramid. There, see the doomsday cycle right here? There's the doomsday cycle. It's doomsday glyphs. These are doomsday glyphs. Who is it? I'm going to tell you, he's the stone the builders rejected. He's the chief cornerstone. I tell you guys all the time. It's my first book talks about, tells you the business. Tells you the business, guys. All right, so to get out of here, I showed you that part. Let me stop sharing my screen. All right. Yeah, crossed bars. The symbol for X, it means the closure of a cycle. All right, so the ancients of the Egyptian Old and Middle Kingdoms, they did not know a zodiac. There's no evidence. You guys have seen my presentations. There's no ancient zodiac, and there's a reason for this. There's a huge reason for this, guys. Aries, Taurus, Libra, Cancer, Gemini, Scorpio, all 12 zodiacal, they were unknown in the ancient world. The zodiac is very recent, within the last 25 centuries. There's a reason for this. The circle of animals that has been portrayed by the Greeks, which was introduced into Africa, introduced into India. This isn't Jason telling you this. Go watch my prior videos. Vedic scholars, Egyptologists, everybody admits the zodiac that we know of today, of Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Libra, all of them, Capricorn, Sagittarius, Scorpio, all of them came from the Greeks and was exported out of the Greeks less than 25, 24 centuries ago all over the world. Ancient Egypt never knew that system. This is why I'm a critic of Graham Hancock and all those who are trying to date Gobekli Tepe and date all these things in ancient worlds using the zodiac. It did not exist. Nothing can be dated in archaeoastronomy accurately beyond 713 BC because the year changed from 360 days to 365, not because humans discovered it all at the same time on every continent, but because a cataclysm happened and it added 5.24 days to the calendar everywhere. So this zodiac was unknown to these people, but it doesn't mean astrology is new. Astrology is ancient, but they were looking at something else back then. All these early times in history of the late third and second millennium BC, the ancients were focused on the brightest star in the sky. Why would you be focused on anything else? The brightest star in the night sky was the object of worship, and it was the object of veneration, and it was also what they aligned their calendars to. Why else would you choose any other star? It would be the brightest star. And that's exactly what we find from the mythological traditions. The brightest star in the sky is Sirius. Sirius is the dog star, and it's in Canis Major, the dog constellation, the great dog. This was considered the hound of Orion. Sirius, because in the night sky, Sirius follows Orion. Orion has Orion's belt, the three belt stars. I agree with Hancock and others that the three belt stars of Orion do semi-match the three great pyramids. And if they don't match exactly, that's no big deal. You have to understand the Great Pyramid Complex was laid out and built 48 centuries ago. The heavens are going to change a little bit if the model is true that NASA has given us. If it's not, then that means nothing's going to change. But it doesn't even matter because even under NASA's model, you wouldn't see any change because under NASA's model, all three of those belt stars are between 800 and 1,000 light years away. And yet, since 48 centuries ago, when the Great Pyramid was finished, Earth, if their model is true and that we're truly traveling at about 500,000 miles per hour through space, our solar system, if that's true, which I don't believe, but if it was true, it means we've only moved 4 degrees in space. There's no way, 4 light years, 4 light years. There's no way that a parallax of 4 light years would change something that's 900 light years away in juxtaposition to each other. You wouldn't notice a change. 900 is too far for a difference of 4 right here. Meaning if we took a picture here, 4 light years later, we took a picture here, but we're taking a picture at something 900 light years away. It's not going to change. So NASA can continue the myth that they're promoting because there's no way to really disprove it using the Great Pyramid and Sphinx. But what we can see is that the Sphinx is the great dog of Sirius. And it lines up perfectly with the great Orion constellation. The ancient astrology and calendars were attached to the hunter, to his dog, and to the 7 sisters the hunter was chasing, called the Pleiades. So it was a very simple system back then, and this is what they had. So Sirius was the most important luminary even in ancient Egypt, and this isn't disputed. Egyptologists agree the star Sirius was the most important object to ancient Egyptian religion. It was called Sopdet, Sopdet, Sopdet. It was connected to a goddess, and its heliacal rising signified the flooding of the Nile River. This is what made it so important. It made it so important. When it began to appear over the horizon, that was going to be in the spring, and that's when all the ice and snows in deep Africa melted from, what is that, Lake Victoria, huge mountain, Kilimanjaro and all that. That's when all those ices and all that flowed north. It's the only river in the world that flows north. And it went from deep Africa all the way to the Mediterranean coast, this river. So This is every year, and Sirius is what marked that time of year, so it became very important to the Egyptian people. This is without dispute the dog star. Now, what's interesting is that some ancient writers, they call Egypt the land of Siriad. Where have we heard that before? Oh, we're not done with this presentation, guys. Where did we hear that before? The land of Siriad. So, all this time in history, all calendars were stellar based with lunar reckoning systems, lunar zodiacs, but not like the zodiac we have today. Remember, even Genesis introduced the first timekeeping method as the evening and the morning. The day in Genesis, the day is the first thing. There is nothing in Genesis that indicates that you should record time in years. So this is where we get our Sumerian system. This is where we get our original Vedic system. This is why we have the Yuga system. Every bit of that's been grossly misunderstood, and there's reasons for that. And the reason is Phoenix. The world has been destroyed multiple times. It's very hard to hold on to original traditions. So concerning Siriad in Egypt, we can turn to the 2,000-year-old testimony of Flavius Josephus concerning the offspring of Set. Remember, Set is Typhon. Offspring of Set. In his book called Antiquities, I'm going to quote this. Josephus said, "They also were the inventors of that peculiar sort of wisdom which is concerned with the heavenly bodies and their order, and that their inventions might not be lost before they were sufficiently known, upon Adam's prediction that the world was to be destroyed at one time by the force of fire and another time by the violence and quantity of water. They made two pillars, the one of brick, the other of stone. They inscribed their discoveries on them both, that in case the pillar of brick should be destroyed by the flood, the pillar of stone might remain, and exhibit those discoveries to mankind, and also inform them that there was another pillar of brick erected by them. Now this remains in the land of Siriad to this day." Okay, I'm giving myself license. Nowhere did he say it was Egypt. He said it was the land of Siriad. Nowhere did he say a pillar was a pyramid. But in my book, Lost Scriptures of Giza, I show you exactly all the ancient texts. I catalog all the ancient texts that referred to pyramids as pillars because they were regarded as holding up the heavens. But we can put all that aside. Don't take Jason's word for it. Don't even refer to my book, Lost Scriptures of Giza. We're going to refer to C. Staniland Wake. We're going to refer to this book from the 1800s, 1882. This is the book we're going to refer to right here. This is a collection of all the most ancient traditions about the Great Pyramid. And this is exactly what it says. It says that these were the pillars. Hold on. It says these were the pillars of Enoch, or the Great Pyramids. That's what's said in this book. Now, he's citing ancient Egyptian Coptic traditions. C. Staniland Wake is his name. The book is on the origin and significance of the Great Pyramid. He's citing an old Arabic tradition, and it reads that Surid sounds a lot like Siriad. It's spelled the same way too. That Surid, one of the kings of Egypt before the flood, built the two great pyramids. I, Surid, the king, have built these pyramids, and I have finished them in 61 years. Let him who comes after me and imagines himself a king attempt to destroy them in 600 years. It's a boast. It's a boast. Surid, S-U-R-I-D. Siriad, S-I-R-I-A-D. Sirius, S-I-R-I-U-S. So my conclusion to that, those who theorize that the Giza pyramids mimic the belt stars of Orion are absolutely correct, because the Sphinx is their dog star companion, Sirius, When you look at the Giza deal, you're looking at the three belt stars of Orion and you're looking at the dog star, not a lion. You're looking at the dog star Sphinx. This means that Giza is dated to the Old Kingdom times and it puts it in the vapor canopy period. Let me drink to that. So we have to further understand in putting this together, we have to understand Egypt's most ancient beliefs about the underworld. We have to talk about the kingdom of Seeker and the gate of Rostau. These are absolutely necessary to understanding what we're going with. In Egypt, all men feared the kingdom of Seeker. The kingdom of Seeker in the underworld and its entrance somewhere around Giza is the reason why the nearby area was called by ancient Egyptians Saqqara. Now, he was a death god older than Osiris. Osiris was a cult after the Phoenix phenomenon, but he was older than Osiris, which puts him back into the vapor canopy period. And his realm was filled with the blackest darkness beneath walls of sand. His shrine was pyramidal, and the gate to his nether kingdom was called Rostau. It was here that the souls of the dead drifted through subterranean chambers and halls and expansive galleries of rock. Remember Ammianus Marcellinus and remember Herodotus explaining that underneath the Great Pyramid complex are levels, and in these levels were labyrinths you could get lost in. So they're in utter darkness. However, the souls of the deserving can be assisted in this dreaded journey after death by the aid of the god Thoth, the messenger god. Thoth is intrinsically connected in ancient Egypt to Anubis. Are they the same? I doubt it. To remain in the kingdom of Seeker was certain death. You would stay here forever. But through Rostau, one could get out of Seeker and enter the other world, the Tuat. Now, Rostau literally was the door of the corridors of the mountain. This is how it's described in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Rostau was a gate called the door of the corridors of the mountain. There are no mountains in Egypt unless you're talking about a pyramid. So now, it is evident by the writings of the Book of the Dead that where one chose to go in Rostau determined his fate. To the Egyptian, Seeker was a darkened desert region, a waste that represented death itself, and the only way out was to find the door Rostau, or you would stay here. In the Book of the Dead, we read this amazing passage. I have entered Rostau, and I have seen the hidden one who is therein. I was hidden, but I found the boundary, the border. I journeyed to Nerotef, and he who was therein covered me with a garment. Covered me with a garment. I've already explained in prior presentations the Christian mysteries and how the whole idea that we're going to receive a new avatar and we're going to leave this one in the construct for somebody else. We're going to get a whole new avatar. And in the Christian mysteries, in the book of Revelation, it's described as a white stone with a new name, which is a new garment, a white garment. Here going through the gate of Rostau, the only way you can go through the gate of Rostau is if you put on a whole new avatar, which is given to you at the gate. Now, in fact, the Sphinx stela, get this, guys, I showed you a picture of it earlier, that giant stele in front of the paws of the Sphinx, giant, put there by Thutmose IV in the 1400 BC, that stele calls the Giza complex Rostau. Can't make this stuff up. Even the ancient pharaohs in 14th century BC, over 14 centuries after the Great Pyramids were built, understood that area was the gate of Rostau. Even they knew that. If one follows the teachings of the Book of the Dead and looks closely, listen, upon the hidden things in Rostau, he may learn that his destination is not downward into the realms below earth, but upward. Air shafts, anybody? Are they air shafts or are they something else? Remember, in the Christian mysteries, that's not a tomb. The tomb, Nerotef, the tomb of Osiris inside the Great Pyramid in the King's Chamber. Yeah, guys, that sarcophagus was meant to be empty. No pharaoh remains have ever been found in the Great Pyramid. That sarcophagus is supposed to remain empty. It is a message that death has no power over the dead. So, anyway, and the Book of the Dead affirms this, reading that thou hast opened the gates to the sky. Thou hast opened the gates to the celestial deep. Even the pyramid texts read, a stairway to the sky is set before me that I may ascend into the sky. This is only for those who receive the white garment and are allowed to pass through Rostau, which is located at Giza. So it's interesting, guys. Rostau serves not only as a gateway between worlds, but according to the Book of the Dead, Rostau was the point of no return. Those who chose not to go through the gate of Rostau stayed here. What have I been telling you guys? You get new avatars all the time. All the time. And you live through life sims. You stay in the construct. But there comes a time when you're offered that exodus, when you're standing before the gate of Rostau, which is the message of the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx Anubis concept. When you're there, according to the Egyptian Book of the Dead, it specifically says, once someone passes through the gate of Rostau, it is irreversible. You're gone. You've exited the construct. You are no longer here, and there's no way to come back. You wouldn't want to come back anyway. But this is what is found in the ancient Egyptian fragments. So, let me move on. I'm sorry this is a long presentation, guys, but we're not done. We're not done, guys. For those who want to understand deeper than what I put together, you just have to read the book, Lost Scriptures of Giza. Or I have a playlist where I have the audio book for free. You can just listen to it on YouTube, the whole book, Lost Scriptures of Giza. But yeah, it was never a lion. I'm going to tell you how that happened. I think that's the next part of the presentation. Let me look. I got to remind myself. I laid out so much to show. So we've been through that. Okay. Okay, real quick. We do have, let's see. All right, so I don't need to go through any of that. Okay, I got to show you this chart now, guys. I got to show you this chart. It's fantastic. So before I show you the chart, I'm going to share my screen. Share screen. All right, I'm sharing the screen now. So let's get over here. Before I show you this chart, I want you to look at this. Just look at this. Taking into consideration everything that I just shared with you from all these different comparative mythological studies, reducing everything to their lowest common denominators, looking at the discoloration of the head as opposed to the body, understanding that the whole area of North Africa was underwater, the Triton Sea, a part of the Mediterranean for 340 years. It accounts for all the anomalies and mysteries. We don't have to use this weird dating all the way back to the Younger Dryas Ice Age period. We don't have to do that. It's unnecessary. It completely defies Occam's razor and all the traditional and archaeological evidence. I am not a uniformitarian. I'm never going to agree with uniformitarian geologists. I don't believe that any of their material is even verifiable. Like I told you many times in my presentations, guys, relative dating methods are erroneous all the time. And when you're allowed to take 200 samples but only publish the 60 that basically agree with each other, that right there is arbitrary. I'm never going to accept it. I'm a chronologist, and that deals with absolutes. Every time I provide you dates, I provide them with exactness, and I show you how it can be verified with a calculator in juxtaposition with other date monikers. We always have chrono markers that refer. Chronology is self-referencing everywhere. So look at this. I just want to show you this before I show you the chart and close the presentation. Look at that. Does that look like it used to be a lion? You can't judge it by the paws because that's a new construction. Look, that's not a part of the original construction. It was made to look like lions by a pharaoh. This was originally something else. Now let's go to this chart before we close this out. So the black box right here, this line you see right here, all my archaics veterans understand this chart layout. I got a whole bunch of these charts. This dark line right here is 2239 BC. Anubis statue is destroyed in 2239 BC. It's the Phoenix cataclysm. I've got 80-something videos on the Phoenix. With further damage in 340 years under the Mediterranean until 1899 BC. That's the Tower of Babel earthquake incident. It was actually transcontinental. When discovered around 1750 BC, the Sphinx head may have been eroded off. I'm willing to concede that a pharaoh didn't just chop the head off. I'm willing to concede that the earthquake and that amount of damage from the collapse of the vapor canopy, the Phoenix phenomenon, fallout in 340 years under the Mediterranean currents could have completely taken the Anubis's head off and left a neck. And then with the neck, they carved a new headdress, and face that fit within the geometry of where the neck was. That's exactly what we find. And it's the reason why the darker rock, which is less exposure to the elements, that's why the head is so dark compared to the more weathered body. So 3895 BC, this is year 1 Annus Mundi right here. 1656 years of the book of Genesis and all the ancient authors that said the pre-flood antediluvian world was 1,656 years. It's right here. This is the distance in time between two Phoenix cataclysms. The first one in 3895 BC, right here, is the Genesis Adam and Eve reset. 1,656 years, Phoenix returns in 2239 BC and causes the flood of Noah, the day the sky fell, the collapse of the vapor canopy, the birth of all the sun calendars. Here it is. Goddesses, during this 1656 years, the goddesses venerated. The Pleiades, the 7 sisters, are venerated. Orion and the dog star Sirius are the center of all calendars in that time period. The Great Pyramid and the Sphinx is constructed during this period, during the vapor canopy. It's all stellar reckoning calendars and lunar zodiacs, but not like the solar zodiac we have today of Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Sagittarius, Libra, and all that. It's a totally different zodiac. This is the Egyptian Old Kingdom period. Egypt was the land of Siriad. That's back then. Here's 2239 BC. Sun calendars begun. Utu Shamash added to the Sumerian pantheon. There it is right there. Added to the Sumerian pantheon, the sun. Remember, Utu Shamash didn't appear in the Sumerian pantheon until Sumer was almost gone. At the end of their pantheon, they suddenly add a god. Why? Because the sun had appeared in the sky for the first time. The vapor canopy was gone. My archaics veterans already know. I don't have to explain this to them, but I'm getting so many new people on my channel, they don't understand vapor canopy techniques. The mesosphere was an ancient vapor canopy that trapped a lot of water, but the water became two different things according to the time of day. When the sun was high in the sky, it couldn't be seen, but it clouded the canopy, and it created a dark purple violet sky. and the sun was never seen. At nighttime, the sky cooled, the sun wasn't in the sky. At nighttime, the vapor canopy turned into a giant watery magnifying lens that magnified the stars and made the moon fill a quarter of the sky. Totally different effect. I have several videos on vapor canopy. This isn't Jason making up vapor canopy. There's 4 different scientific books that are all about it. So this is the vapor canopy. The vapor canopy collapses. The sun appears. Horus is added to the Egyptian pantheon, the son of the sun. Deucalion and Pyrrha throw bones to make a new human race when the sky is raining blood. Egyptian intermediate period. This is a very sophisticated way of admitting that we don't want to admit that a cataclysmic reset happened in Egypt. And this is why the first dynasties are very different than the middle dynasties. This is why. This is why the headdress was introduced. It was a totally different culture in Egypt. So the intermediate period is the same 340 years that we find that the Sphinx and the Great Pyramids are underwater. Technolithic period ends 2239 BC. Heliolithic period begins. Why is it Heliolithic? It's because now they're building giant megalithic cities in honor of the sun. All the calendars now switched over to the sun. The Eye of the Dragon pole star is no longer trustworthy. Something happened. The lack of trust in stellar dating and the fact that the moon had become so small in the sky, not magnified anymore, had the new cultures after the cataclysm venerating the sun. Patriarchy took over. Goddess worship fell. Goddesses became attached as consorts to male divinities. So, this is the Heliolithic period. The great flood caused by Phoenix, Typhon, the feathered serpent. It's all the same. So, 340 years later, we have 1899 BC. This is the Tower of Babel incident. We've covered that multiple times in other presentations. In that incident, a quake lifts North Africa. Lower Egypt is the raised land. The 9 rivers appear, which is Chiquinopa, however you say it, the 9 rivers to the Aztecs. Now, even in the Egyptological chronology, this is the Egyptian Middle Kingdom begins. I wonder why. Because the intermediate period of total destruction was over. That's why. 1687 BC. You guys know I just finished a 5-video presentation on this 1 year, the month of May, 1687 BC. The Ogygian deluge was again Phoenix, the Typhon. Heliolithic maritime culture collapses worldwide, plunges the entire world into a dark age that lasts 25 years. A vapor canopy reappears for 25 years, massive starvation. The vapor canopy doesn't stay around long enough for vegetation and animals to grow bigger and all that. It's very short-lived. It does affect humans. Hesiod even mentions that the age of giants had returned. I've got this in prior presentations on the Ogygian deluge, but here it is. And again, Egyptological chronology fits perfectly with the Archaic chronology. 1662 BC, Egyptian New Kingdom begins. At the exact same time, 25 years after the Ogygian deluge, when the whole world began waking up at the same time. It wasn't just the New Kingdom began. Everybody started waking up. It took 25 years for all these cultures to recover from the devastation of the Ogygian deluge. And then 250-something years later, Thutmose IV in Egypt digs out the Sphinx. He digs the Sphinx up and finds a tablet stele there. Yeah, it's all recorded. It's there. And he also puts the restoration stela there. It's all there. 1400 BC, Thutmose IV knew that Sphinx represented Anubis and knew because on the stele, it calls that whole area Rostau. That's my presentation, folks. Hats off to Robert Temple. But that's my whole presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want me to, I didn't even think about PDFing it. If you want me to PDF the whole presentation, I will. And you can get free download PDFs. It'll take me a little while because there's a lot of images here, but I'll do it. with all that data, because I have all the data available too. But yeah, that's my presentation. It took 2 hours and 27 minutes. But the Great Sphinx, sometime after 2239 BC, the head was worn off from the cataclysm. And you have to understand, we put this together despite the fact that in 2239 BC, almost the entire world was destroyed. It was reset. Literacy plummeted to nothing. 340 years later, the world was damaged quite a bit, but it wasn't a total reset. 1687 BC was 552 years after the flood. It's a phoenix cycle. What happened? The Ogygian deluge. What does the historical record say about the Ogygian deluge? The entire world died, is basically what it said. Cannibalism, all of these things were going on. Literacy plunged. There was no writing, no preservation of records. The reason I'm mentioning these things is because I have already done overkill on documenting these cataclysms, showing you all the dates and how they're derived and all the ancient sources. The reason it's important to the study of Anubis is because we are putting together a picture through the filters of destroyed worlds. Do you know how hard that is? Do you have any idea how hard it is to amass all this data and put it together and collate it and put it into a chronological format for you guys to process? When it's going through the filter of Phoenix cataclysms, Phoenix destroyed the entire world in 2239 BC. It did it again in 1687 BC. It did it again in 1135 BC. Anybody can verify the 1135 BC. Many scholars have talked about the Great Mediterranean Dark Age, but it wasn't the Great Mediterranean Dark Age. It was a dark age over the entire world. And it took 300 years for the world to start waking up. How do we know? Because the Greek Olympiad calendar started in 776 BC. How do we know the Persian calendar started in the 600s BC? How do we know Rome started 753 BC? How do we know Athens came out of its great dark age and started its Corinthian League and all these other leagues? The whole world started waking up at the same time. So every time the world dies, so do its records. And it becomes more and more difficult to piece these things together. So I can forgive a lot of researchers for making the mistakes they have. I can sit down with a cup of coffee with Billy Carson right now and say, hey, man, I've been real hard on you, and I apologize for that. But the fact remains, you need to see these data sets because they will totally change the entire narrative that you've been promoting. Are you a good guy? Yeah, I'm a good guy. You got some spiritual material? Yeah, you got some spiritual material. Are you a chronologist? Hell no. Neither is Graham Hancock. Once they amend their theories to comport with what is chronologically verifiable, I'm going to be on their team. Until then, I'm going to be the needle that keeps pricking them. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to be heard, and my presentations are going to be more and more and more thorough and comprehensible. I'm now rambling. I'm rambling, guys. I should have got out of the stop sharing mode. Sorry about that. But that's my presentation. Thank you for your donations, Corey Stern. I see you up there. I saw Merrill earlier. Somebody gave me $20. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm on fire right now, guys. I got so many awesome presentations on the way. I got so much good material coming to you guys. It's amazing me how it's just weird. Sometimes I stop doing what I'm doing during the day, and something just tells me just get up. I come in here, I just pull a book off, and I just sit down and I start flipping through it, and it just amazes me, dude. It's like spirit is guiding me to find exactly what I need to find when I need to find it. And at this point in my life, there's just nothing at all that bothers me. I just had over 1,000 posts deleted on Facebook. Facebook just deleted me, and when Dawn told me that and we verified it, and then Big John looked and said, oh, yeah, you're gone, dude. You're disappeared. I listened to that. It was about an hour before this video that we found this out. And I just listened to that, and I'm so at peace. I'm like, man, it's meant to be. It's meant to be. Maybe it was a distraction. I don't know. But I'm so at peace with it. And I'm at peace with where I am in life and what I'm doing. I just know that there's more and more presentations. We're all together. We're all going to be having these mind explosions because I feel like I'm on the verge of some great, massive discovery. I just feel it, and I know it's coming, and I know you guys are going to enjoy the benefit of that. But like I said, I'm just rambling right now. I don't want to go get all metaphysical on you, but love you guys, and I'm going to hit that I'm going to hit that outro. Share this wide and far. You can share it on Facebook. I appreciate it because I sure the hell can't. That's funny. But yeah, guys, no worries. There's no worries because it's all about break free or die trying.